This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to the OI podcast, the Otago Institute podcast, shouting about everything and everything from the worlds of art, sciences and Mataranga Māori. Brought to you by the Otago Institute, the Otago branch of the Royal Society of Arts and Sciences. Whoops, kia ora, I'm Trudy and
I'm Dr. Barb.
And today we have a special treat because we have got Kimberley Fridd who's going to talk to us about drama in New Zealand. So welcome, Kimberley.
Kia ora, kōrua. Lovely to be here.
Cool. So Kimberley holds a graduate diploma teaching education, secondary, crikey, and dip grad of something.
Advanced certificate in TV production. That's my writing there, folks.
Right.
Sorry.
And a BA in Theatre Studies. Oh, this is quite exciting. It's quite a wee treat to talk about drama today. Yeah. So
we haven't actually had someone on talking about drama
we
yet.
haven't.
You are the first person on the show talking about drama, so we're very excited to have you along. Awesome.
And people might say, well, they've had enough of us drama queens as it is. So, yeah. But anyway, so Kimberley's been the head of drama at John McGlashan College in Utaputi since 2011. That's quite an exciting role.
It is, yeah. Finally got my name on the wall in the chapel, which is exciting.
So is there quite a ceremony that goes with that?
No, the name just goes on the wall. Yeah, no pomp and circumstance.
Right.
But you've made it if your name's on the wall. You've been there a while.
Crazy. John McGlashan's is an all-boys school, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but I do teach some students from along the road at our sister school at Columba as well in my Year 12 and Year 13 cohort.
I was just thinking if you're doing drama, it's always easier to have people playing male parts and female parts. I suppose that's.
Yeah,
I guess they made it along in Shakespeare's time. They made do, didn't they?
Yes, they did indeed.
And I went to an all-girls school, and we didn't share with our sister, brother school in those days. So yes, so you're also a curriculum fellow, secondary drama program at the University of Otago. So how do you fit all this in, as well as being the co-founder of the Health and Wellbeing for Arts Education Collective?
Yes, get that. I run on very little sleep.
What is a curriculum fellow?
So basically I teach the training secondary drama teachers how to teach drama.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you're not just the head of the school, you're the one who's teaching the other teachers.
I'm teaching training teachers.
Training teachers. Pre-teachers.
Yeah. So it's my third year in that role. So I just deal with the secondary training teachers, and there's someone else who teaches the primary teachers with drama.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow. We didn't even have drama at my school. It was in high school. It's way out of my league.
It's come a long way, but it's been a subject in education for over 100 years.
Wow!
And I mean, when you look back to Greek theatre several thousand years ago, it's been around a while.
Wow!
Yeah,
in New Zealand, 100 years.
Well, yeah, in education. Don't know about not necessarily in New Zealand, but in worldwide in worldwide education for at least 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it used to be part of the English curriculum, I believe, and now it's a standalone.
That's true, because we did do, in English, we did do King Lear and
poetry and
all
sorts of different stuff.
Yeah, and I obviously teach every year level between Year 7 to Year 13.
Right.
Plus the uni students.
Yeah.
So it's a good mix.
I guess the other thing we did, obviously, is we had a school production, which I guess is that big thing. Are you in charge of all the school productions?
Yeah, so I've done a few in my time. We haven't done one since, is it 2018, maybe just pre-COVID?
Right.
Because they're big and they're really expensive.
That takes quite a lot of time as well.
Yeah, it's like having an extra full-time job. Yeah, very much so. So I think our last one was Rock of Ages. But obviously with teaching every year level of drama, it means that I'm doing smaller productions with each of those, especially the senior levels as well. So my Year 13 production is actually the second week of next term. We've had to move it just because of car sickness. So we've been working on that all term.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so is that like a public performance somewhere?
Yes, it will be. Yeah. And so the title of the play is The Boy Who Blew Up the Pandemic. So it's very timely. People were joking that we were moving the play because people got COVID. That was actually the flu. So, yeah, I had to set them straight. But it's actually a reworking of Ken Mizusawa's play, The Boy Who Caused 9/11. Which is a play he wrote a few years ago. And he reworked the play to have sort of a COVID spin, but also to include things like social media and things like that to keep it more fun and contemporary for those young and hip people.
Wow. Fun and contemporary. It sounds rather intense to me.
Yeah, it is a really intense play, but it's really fun. So basically all of my actors are on stage comedy the whole time. Yes and no. There's the odd funny bit, but it is quite serious. Right. The main character, he is a 12-year-old boy and he has obsessive compulsive disorder. And he has to do everything the same way every day. And when things don't go his way, one day he thinks that he caused the pandemic. And so everything goes to hell.
Right.
Yeah, and he thinks that he is the reason that this is happening. So it's a really interesting piece. And the way that it's structured, there are multi-roles, so kids are dropping in and out of different characters, and there's a lot of very kind of like didactic, almost Greek theatre, like a Greek chorus as well.
You might have to explain that a bit more for me.
So it kind of means more that the characters stand there and talk to the audience. There isn't necessarily as much kind of like movement, and so I've tried to, in my role as the director, bring a little bit more physical theatre into it to have them moving around and make it a little bit more interesting. Because what we know about Greek theatre is, people would stand there and do big speeches to the audience, and if a character, died, that never happened on stage. So, so some little messenger would run in and say, so-and-so has died, and then they'd like wheel them in on the cart. And so it is quite a different form to maybe like, Shakespeare, where you would see someone being stabbed with a dagger or something.
Well, that's the whole Romeo and Juliet without a stabbing is just nothing, isn't it? It's just like...
Yes, so
and
quite
isn't there
different.
something like if you're coming from one stage in Greek theatre, you're coming from overseas or something, and then
they're very particular with their rules and bits and pieces, and they did all sorts of amazing things like flying in gods and all sorts of things.
But so I suppose the audience all knows what's
and they all know what the rules are.
Yeah,
that's just the way foreshadowing works, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think theatre people in general, we are a little bit superstitious, and we don't say Macbeth in the theatre. We call it that Scottish play, and we leave a light on in an empty theatre for the theatre ghost, and all these little rules, and just like in my own classroom when the kids are about to perform, and I'm like, break a leg, and they're like, oh my goodness, miss, why did you tell that student to be? I'm like, it means good luck. Just little quirky things like that.
So do you have your own auditorium, or where do you actually put the plays on at school?
So I'm really lucky that my drama classroom was built a few years ago. I'm down in the basement level of the Edgar Learning Centre. So that was built, obviously, it's got Ian Edgar's name to it.
Right. So it's not the Edgar Centre. We're not getting confused.
No, it's a completely different thing. So it's the Edgar Learning Centre. And within that space upstairs, we have an amazing library with the most amazing view over the golf course, Belmac Golf Course, and I look out to the hills. And I have a gorgeous space with a lot of glass. So I have black curtains so I can black it out, and we're going to be doing our production in there, a very boutique kind of little theatre space.
And how do people get tickets for it?
So we've got the link in our newsletter.
Right.
So it's on our poster. I should have put a poster in. I can send one to Dolmy.
Oh, we can put a link.
We can put a link
on the episode description.
Yeah, so we can't fit a hell of a lot of people in. But,
but if you get oversubscribed, you'll just do it again.
Yeah, we can. I'm sure the kids will love that.
That would be amazing. We've got to do another run.
Yeah. That's what all the big plays do, don't they? Oh, we're sold out. We'll put it on for an extra night.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
So as well as all this, you're also Drama NZ's Otago Southland Regional Rep chairperson.
Yes, so I was in that role for 8 years, and then I stepped down to go back on the executive. So I'm on the executive of Drama NZ.
So what is Drama NZ, and what does it do?
Yeah, so Drama New Zealand is our national subject association. So every subject in who's teaching in the curriculum in New Zealand has their own subject association. So English has their own one, Maths has their own one, Science. And so Drama NZ does a lot of mahi around supporting kaiako and their roles within classrooms to then support their ākonga in their learning. And so we do a lot of advocacy. We do a lot of chatting with the ministry and NZQA. We do a lot of professional development for teachers. So I've just been a part of a team who's been helping to facilitate some workshops around the new Level 1 curriculum, which has just come in.
Oh, right.
So I did a workshop in Central Otago at the start of term 2, and then I did another one in Ōtepoti later in the term, just teaching teachers how to cope with the new standards and just tips and tricks and bits and pieces, because it has been quite an overhaul.
So has it changed quite a lot?
Yes, it has. Yeah, yes and no. I think for those of us who work in the arts, we're really lucky because our subject is so grounded in culture. So a lot of what we do is based around manaakitanga, whakawhanaungiatanga, wairua. Those concepts are not new to us. So they've just been interwoven into the standards a little bit more, and really making sure that at least one of those standards has a really grounded New Zealand context.
And how do you put a New Zealand context into drama?
Very easily. We're really lucky that we have so many amazing New Zealand playwrights. And there's just so many amazing works to choose from.
And does each teacher just choose which one they want?
Yeah, so you
sort of like open choice.
Yeah, so for like one of the standards, they'll choose 2 works and then kind of get a feel for how their ākonga are going and what one they want to work with and use for that standard. So mine chose the play Astro Man by Albert Bells, which is a really awesome play about a young kid growing up in 1980s Whakatane. And it was sort of, that time when, like after school you go and you play Space Invaders and stuff on the, on the machines, and you ride your BMX, and really fun, but funny on one hand, but also a really dark undercurrent about context and about racism. And those types of things running through as well. So those types of texts are really rich and really important ones that our students need to be exploring.
Sorry, Trudy.
I was going to say, and exciting news, you're awarded a life membership from Drama New Zealand, so fantastic, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, they tried really hard to keep that quiet from me, because it's hard being on the exec. One of the exec members ends up getting a life membership, but my principal joke that I was too young to be receiving a life membership, and I thought that was only for old people.
Yeah. Well, no, that's just a mark of your brilliance.
Thank you. But it was really lovely to be recognised. I mean, a lot of the mahi that we do, it's all volunteer.
Yeah.
And we do it because we're so passionate about our subject, and that's the thing. That's the thing that keeps me in drama teaching, because I just absolutely adore my subject, and I just see that the skills that my students get from it, they leave your classroom and they're well-rounded human beings.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point, actually. What sort of transferable skills do most of your students carry on in drama?
Not everyone. I mean, I've had a few that, have done really well and become professional comedians. James Musterpick is one of mine. So,
he's another freaks me out, sorry.
Yeah, and Jane's a friend of mine. And, and she's just such a delight. And James... I remember sitting in class and he would come up and say, Miss, I've got a YouTube channel. You've got to watch it. And I was like, what's it about? It's about Shorty Street Scandal. I was like, okay.
So have you had any students on Shortland Street?
He actually, I think he did have a bit part at some point. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, it's like Shortland Street is like the mark of all New Zealand actors. It's really hard to find it's like Neighbours in Australia. It's really hard to find a New Zealand actor who hasn't had some, at least walk-on role.
And obviously a lot
Sam
of...
Neill? I don't think Sam Neill's been on Shortland Street.
I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously,
Maybe.
I'm
Sam, if you're listening.
it's your chance. Although only 3 nights a week, I think it's moving to. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, I'm an Otago University girl, and I went through Ellen Hall, and a lot of graduates who have gone through Ellen Hall. Yeah. I've had a lot of friends end up on Shortland Street. But I would never forget when I was doing the playwriting course with Simon O'Connor. I majored in playwriting for 2 years at Otago, and I remember he got Roger Hall to talk to us.
Oh, amazing.
One day, and I remember him saying, most of you will not have a full-time job as a playwright if that's the road that you go down. Yeah. But if you were to do one thing to help you go and write for Shortland Street. And that was his advice, which I thought was really interesting, but I thought it was actually really good advice because, it's a soap, it's current, it's, ticking over.
I think it has actually been fantastic for the arts in that whole TV production because it's like a learning space. Yep. You can go on as a small part and then you can grow in it. And it's just, I think just the longevity of it, just being there means that people who are not on screen necessarily, but all the people who are making the production just have jobs, like stable. Yep. There's just a stable amount of job there. And I think, people talk about Lord of the Rings and all things, but I think that having things like Shortland Street, as much as we might, roll our eyes and go, oh, Shortland Street.
Yeah, people like to bag it.
But it is, and it really does, I don't know, it talks about Auckland, so what we know down here about Auckland, but it does. It has Kiwi faces and Kiwi accents on the TV.
Yeah, and it's a real mark of our culture as people too, because they're really current and they stay with the times. And I remember when they first brought in like Te Reo Māori, signs and things like that. Like they're always like one step ahead. Yeah. And it was almost
like the Archers in Britain when I was in the UK. Yeah. Because the Archers is it's a radio show, but it's a really long running. But it was actually brought in by the Ministry of Agriculture because they wanted something that the farmers would listen to, and they come in and they talk about, have you got your taxes in? And this family's talking to the taxes, and and there's this new part, and it's like and originally like 50 years ago, it was all just a big, how to get people. And clued up as what was happening. Yeah,
it's always the answer on the chase. What radio show? The answer's always going to be the Archers.
And I think Shortland Street is our Archers. It's that sort of long running. Just the fact that it is so long running has made it kind of the thing. Anyway,
and there's still a place for it too.
I think so.
And I think we are in a bit of a dire straits at the moment in terms of arts funding and funding for TV and performing arts and things like that. So there is still a place for it.
Yeah. So given that we are in such dire straits, I suppose, then your involvement in wellbeing for a collective and health and wellbeing for arts education, there'll be more, perhaps we could talk about that for a wee bit and then about how that we can work together to support people who are struggling because everybody seems to be hit with funding crisis at the moment. And then a wee bit, perhaps we could unpick a wee bit around the stereotype around boys don't do drama or, and about how this all helps to build those rounded people that we also need in our society. So tell us a wee bit about your health and wellbeing collective.
Yeah, so in 2018, I was attending a national drama conference up in Auckland with another friend of mine, Rachel McMillan, who's head of drama at St Hilda's. And we were presenting on, I think we called our presentation Hygge Happiness. And I don't know how much. So Hygge like rhymes with cougar.
Right, so that's that Danish.
That Danish word.
I thought it
was like huggy.
Everyone has their own way of saying it. So I got quite into Hygge in a big way. Like my Instagram handle is even hygge.dunedin. And Domi will know this because he follows me on Instagram, that I'm really into my my coziness. It's all about kinship. It's about sharing like food with friends and loved ones. It's all about the feeling that is invoked. Like you can't buy hygge. Yeah. You have to make it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's
really matariki, eh?
It is.
It's really very, very similar in intention.
Yeah.
To at least part of one of the facets of matariki, I think, is very much along those same.
Yeah, and so when I started reading up about hygge and buying every book I could on hygge by Mike Viking, who is the authority on hygge, and he's worked for the Happiness Institute in Scandinavia. Read a lot around that. I thought this so aligns beautifully with arts and that feeling that we drama teachers try to create in our classroom, where we make it a warm and inviting space, because I feel like good learning comes out of like nice spaces. Yeah. And so, as an educator, like my space had to be lit the right way and be the right temperature and just have, nice soft furnishings and things like that. And so we presented on hygge happiness in the classroom, and we had a workshop, and then we had a couple of other educators come to our workshop, and then we got to talking. We went to their workshops, and then we kind of said, why isn't there a health and wellbeing collective in the arts? Why don't we start one? So we got to talking. So we had obviously us two from Dunedin, and we had a teacher down in Invercargill. Actually, we had another one at Logan Park, and then we had another teacher at Craighead in Timaru. And so we just kind of got together and started from there.
Are they all drama teachers?
Yeah, we're all drama teachers.
And they're all Southern.
Yeah,
Southern women. I know.
Well, I think that it's something about those dark winters as well, isn't it? We really know the importance of making something, making something cozy and warm and that whole thing.
Yeah,
like,
but
you live in a subtropical area. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, but it isn't just about, like, we like to go outside too, and there is no bad weather. There is only bad clothing.
Yes.
And that is
it's a very southern attitude as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I like a bit of Shinrin-yoku. I like a bit of forest bathing. So it's a Japanese thing where you go into the forest, and I quite often do this when I go to the gardens, and you just be in the trees and just absorb all the goodness.
But not climbing the trees, just
climbing.
Like be in the
it's just to absorb the beauty of nature.
I know quite a lot of people who do a regular week, like once a week, trip to Orokonui for the same reason, and they'll do the same walk or that big long walk down the track. Or,
I feel like Councillor Steve Walker
he's
very
big into that. Yeah. But I think there's quite a few regulars that sort of, it's their little space of freedom there. Yeah. And definitely Tahu Mackenzie swears by it.
Yeah, and there's just something lovely about being in the outdoors and just absorbing that. And as a girl who grew up in the south, and I mean, I started primary school at Lake Tekapo, like my school looked out over the lake and the mountains, like that's just my happy place. And so I'm very big on space and tuaranga waiwai.
Yeah, nice. Do you ever do productions that are open air productions?
So quite often when I do Greek theatre, we do open air. Yeah, because I think you need to be in an outdoor space for Greek theatre, because there's a technique, if you're being very historical about projection, and especially if you have a mask on too, it's just not the same thing in a classroom.
Right.
So weather permitting, we're doing Greek theatre actually with my level 2s this term. We will be doing it outside.
Oh, nice.
In the costume, in the masks, which is cool.
Cool, because they do have an auditorium type thing at the Botanic Gardens, don't they?
Yeah, like a little kind of amphitheatre.
Amphitheatre.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough, I mean, I'll never forget the day that I went to Athens and went to the Theatre of Dionysus, where it all began.
Wow.
10 years ago.
It didn't begin 10 years ago.
I went there 10 years ago. Yeah, just to think that, thousands of years ago there were people performing in that space. Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing.
And continuously as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the Theatre of Dionysus is not a working theatre, but the one that is on the right-hand side as you walk up into the Acropolis is still used. Yeah. I think actually Coldplay did a music video there very recently. I noticed on Instagram. So they are still using it, and now they have lighting and things like that. But back then, obviously everything was performed during the day because there was no electricity for lighting. And
they didn't do
like
ones with candles and things?
Torches. It might be.
Torches.
Not just a little candle.
Yeah. Because Shakespeare did stuff at night, eh?
Yeah. But then, like a lot of theatres burnt down. So fire and not such a good mix.
And they had the plague as well.
Yeah. Very true. So, but in terms of like theatre spaces, I think like we're always thinking about space. I think it's something that drama, because also in terms of drama techniques, we teach about use of space, and it's the physical theatre space, but it's also personal space as an actor. So I think we've just got space on the brain. So when we were presenting about hygge happiness and talking about classroom space and how we can make it feel like, you know, how we can build whanaungiatanga and that kinship when kids come into the space, and how we can use manaakitanga in terms of like respecting the space. It just fits so beautifully. So we got to talking a little bit more, and we ended up Zooming each other, and then we'd end up like road tripping to Awamaru to have like a little hui, and we just kind of built from there. And then suddenly we were presenting at more drama conferences, and then we were presenting at the PBTA conference, presenting to
PBTA.
So that's sort of like our
Post-primary
union.
Teachers Association.
Yeah, a secondary union, bless them. We presented at, two of us presented at that conference in Te Whanganui, Atara, a few years ago, which was really cool. And then I presented on the health and wellbeing at the Drama Australia conference last year in Newcastle as well, which was really cool. And then as part of our mahi, we basically applied for a scholarship through Drama NZ to either like write some type of paper or something like that. And we talked a lot about it, and we kind of felt that an academic paper wasn't the type of thing that we wanted to write. We wanted to write something that was like super accessible, that teachers could just pick up, read, pass on to other educators, and that's where the concept of UHO was born. And so UHO is our scholarship publication, and we have 2 issues of it. And UHO means the heart of the tree in Māori. And because our health and wellbeing for arts education logo centres on trees and, you know, that concept of nature coming back in space, we thought that UHO was like a perfect fit for that. And so that publication was born, and we've written obviously 2 issues, and that's been shared quite widely now, and even been picked up by Drama Australia, which has been really cool, because arts and wellbeing is something that they've been trying to really focus on. And we actually, I just was in meetings yesterday, because we're presenting at the International Drama Conference at the end of September in Te Whanganui, Atara, Wellington, on health and wellbeing, which will be a much more physical workshop. So it's ongoing mahi at this stage.
Yeah, no, that sounds really exciting. And we've got the links for those issues on the page there, so we'll put them in the episode description as well. And there's I just noticed when I was just looking through it before the show, there's a really lovely whakatauki at the top, which is from Dr. Henemoa Elder there. So that's lovely that she gave that introduction to her.
That was a real coup for us, because we really looked to her and her amazing mahi, and obviously, you know, have her books and everything. And so for her to basically read over the proof of that first issue and then write our forward, we were really grateful.
Yeah, no,
it was really amazing.
Is actually a really lovely. Did you want to read the whakatauki there? Or do you want me to read? I've got it here in front of me. Ko atu tahi te whetu tarake o te rangi. And it is a famous whakatauki about Te Atu Tahi, who is one of the whetu, the stars. Canopus, I guess, is the kind of Greek Western science wording of that. But it is a very lovely whakatauki there, talking about the creative lives of the tamariki.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really beautiful, eh? And I love the fact that it's she kind of focused on us being kind of like a group of educators guiding the light.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, in terms of trying to practice what we preach and you know, really do some important work, because I'm very conscious that burnout in the arts is the highest in terms of any other subject.
Really? So in the teachers or in the students?
In
the teachers. There's so much that you have to put into it, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, like, when you think about it, you know, you look at subjects like drama and music, and, you know, on top of your daytime teaching and planning and marking and assessment, you are preparing for shows. It's all that, you know, rehearsals at lunchtime, weekends, school holidays. There's a lot of extra work that comes into it, and we're very conscious of that around burnout. And one of our team has suffered from burnout, and so she talks a lot from her learned personal experience around burnout, and she's sort of using her knowledge through her work in positive psychology as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because when there's a subject like that that's constantly suffering, people in that subject are constantly suffering from burnout, what it really means is it's understaffed.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah,
and as a whole across, because statistically, if you've got a lot of employees in a workplace, which across New Zealand, I guess all the drama teachers would be.
Yeah, a lot of us are one person bands.
I was thinking that because it's not, you haven't really got quite the same mass of people. I don't know how to say that.
And I think it's a bit different
mass.
than if I was, say, the head of a maths department. I might support a sporting team, for example. You know, that's a bit more constrained front. You know, there's practice and you'll have parent help and stuff, but drama and the arts, it's kind of full on. You can't just, I'm going to pick up and do something different. You're immersed in the stuff, I think, perhaps. And this would be really, really important, supporting each other and then supporting whānau and the tamariki.
Yeah, and we have to really practice what we preach and really model it too. So we've got to learn about the power of saying no as well, because we're all doers and we're like, well, I'll do this, say yes, but I've had to be really strong with myself to go, is that the best thing for me? So we have to be really careful with that, because I think just naturally drama teachers are real doers, and they will always say yes and take on extra stuff. And we volunteer, and all the work through Drama NZ, it's all volunteer.
And you always want it to be the best production as well. You do. Like there's no sense of done is good enough. I think, there's always people like that in whatever subject you are, but I think particularly in something like performing arts, I think there really is that striving for the best and perfection all the way, and we could do it bigger and better and right. And
and I mean there are constraints with money and things like that, but in terms of them succeeding in the subject, we take on their anxiety, and there is a little bit of anxiety, fatigue, and things like that, because we get really nervous for them because they're like your babies, we take it super seriously. Like I always get really nervous and get that really sick stomach before they perform because I feel like that's me.
So when you're talking about your collective of Wellbeing, the collective is for the teachers, right?
Yeah, so there used to be 5 of us, there's now 3 core people who have been in it from the beginning, and so it is about the wellbeing of kaiako, but it is also about the wellbeing of our konga, our learners. We like to use that analogy that you put your oxygen mask on first before you put the oxygen mask of others on, because you're no good to, and it's like, we've heard other ones about, the empty cups and bits and pieces, like you got to fill your own cup first. So I think it is important that we look to the teaching staff first before we look at improving the wellbeing of students.
Do you find that just because you've made such a safe space for your drama classroom, and I guess the kids coming into it, they are quite... it's quite a vulnerable thing to be putting yourself in that space and then performing in front of people. And so you have to have that sort of really cohesive, safe space. And as a group, do you find that sometimes you end up acting like a pseudo school counsellor? Is that part of where the burnout comes from?
Yeah. And there can be a lot of empathy fatigue going on too, because I think just naturally being a drama teacher, kids gravitate towards you when they've got issues, because drama naturally is what it is to be a human being, and our subject teaches things like empathy and what it is to step into another person's shoes, and so they naturally see you as a person who gets emotions. And so yes, I do have kids come and see me quite often. And I've worked with a number of kids throughout my career, and that's a really rewarding part of the job too, and getting kids help the help that they need. But I think all teachers, are just more than just a classroom practitioner. They are.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, so much more than that. The job's really evolved.
I don't know. Sorry, no, Trudy. I was just going to say, in some Scandinavian countries, for instance, that all the schools have a guidance counsellor.
Yeah.
In the school, and I don't think New Zealand's quite there.
A lot of ours have, if not a full-time one, a part-time one. But there will always be, like someone who is well qualified that we can send them to. Yeah,
because it's like any kind of counselling, you've got to find the right person. So it's really good having someone else you can pass them on to or refer them to if it's if it doesn't work. Yeah,
because just because you've got that person at school doesn't mean that they're the right person for that individual rangatahi. And so I think you've got to really suss that out and how comfortable they feel about it. Because sometimes they just want to talk to you. Yeah, and it makes you feel incredibly privileged to share in that too. But then that does add a weight.
I was going to say, how do you?
As well, and I do have sleepless nights. I have had that in the past. Yeah, with some students where I just, you do take that worry home because you it's a serious. You're human and it's a serious part of the job. Yeah.
So you've worked in Tauranga Boys, which is a large school, and now you're at John McGlashan, which isn't quite as large, but they're both boys' schools. And, we think, drama, boys, really? Or tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, when I was at Tauranga Boys, obviously I was a first-year teacher teaching in a school that I think is now like 2,000.
It's huge.
Wow,
it is huge.
That is insanely big.
Yeah, it's really big. But, I was there on placement as a training teacher as well, under Andrew McKenzie, who is now the drama teacher at King's, because we're very good friends and our families are very close and stuff, which is cool. But that Tauranga Boys, I felt like I really cut my teeth. Being a first year female student in that type of environment. And I kind of thought if I could teach at that school, I could teach anywhere. I'm really passionate about boys' education, and I think drama is one of those subjects that students who do take it do get stereotyped into that it's some type of soft kind of subject that they take and then just play games, but it is a really serious academic subject, and I feel like I've got a really big opportunity to really mould these kids and the key transferable skills of creativity and communication and collaboration and critical thinking, a huge part of drama. We've got a really big responsibility to really, infer those into the kids. And I'm really stoked when they leave school and they're well-rounded human beings. That's the most important thing. Because over and above of grades, is that they're awesome human beings. That's really important. I'm always
campaigning for the university to have a liberal arts type system where everyone who's doing a science degree actually has to take some art subjects and vice versa. Anyone doing an arts degree has to take some sciences.
Yes.
And I think it just exactly that. It makes people more rounded people.
Yeah.
And I think it would benefit not just the people but the fields as well.
And we know this, through research in terms of famous mathematicians who are also really good musicians because mathematics and music work beautifully together.
And it always used to be the thing. You think of Michelangelo, it was always the thing. And it's sort of a last, 80 to 100 years that it's divided into this crazy system where it's very siloed between them.
And it shouldn't be, because I feel really grateful that within my subject, some days, depending on the play, I'm teaching about maths.
Yeah.
And some days I'm teaching about science concepts. Sometimes I'm teaching about, this text or, I feel like it's one of those subjects that it's super, cross-curricular. And so depending on the text or the character or the play that you're working on, the play that we're working on at the moment, we've been talking about, medicine and backtracking about, what we remember about the COVID lockdown and the science around it, and then the way that the media portrayed the different sides.
That's the critical thinking coming in there.
It's been fascinating. And going back, because, there's a scene in the play near the end where you have the media on one side saying breaking news and then, giving us the facts. And on the other side, you've got the keyboard warriors on their phones saying, false flag operation and, fake news and just the juxtaposition of that. And so we had to unpack that and watch a lot of, there was a really good documentary by RNZ about the occupation in Wellington and kind of the last day and just breaking that down. So we were looking at historical events. So every day is varied, and that's the thing I love about the subject.
No, it's interesting, eh? No, I'm really sad that I missed out on it, I feel. Because I just had a really...
I think the world might have missed out. Yeah. Or dodged the bullet, I suppose. It depends on your perspective.
Because we went to a really tiny school.
Yeah.
And we had the end of year production, but we didn't have drama as a subject. Yeah.
And if we're talking about Shorten Street before, and we think about Once Warriors and all sorts of other productions that New Zealand does, it's really important to give those people in your classroom, role models, someone to look up to and say, you're not here on your own. These are what people have done before. These, you could always refer to Colin Firth or somebody else, but it must be really good to have really good local people so they can relate to. So I suppose that's when we worry about funding. What does that do around how do we identify with what we look like if we can't look at ourselves on the bigger screen or listen to ourselves on the radio? So
for sure. Yeah. And it's so important for young people to have role models. And not all, our kids end up wanting to be professional actors or directors or playwrights. I mean, the value in the subject is that the skills that they get are transferable if they want to go off and be a lawyer or be a businessman or a marketer or, work in medicine.
Even a scientist, honestly, I'd like a whole lot of scientists to have a whole lot more emotional ability to communicate.
Well. Totally.
Your reports will be a lot easier to read.
Not my reports in person. I think Trudy's talking in general there.
Oh, okay.
The prose I used to write with in the 1800s, now the way you write now,
it is
boring. Sorry, no offence. The information in it isn't necessarily boring, but the way it's presented can be.
Can be. But then, science communication is flourishing as well. And I guess that's directly as a consequence of science writing going through that period of being so dry and boring and everything being written in third person and craziness. It's like
some more plays about science.
More plays about science would be great. Yeah. And I just think if you're talking about critical thinking, and I also just really like that whole bridge type aspect of it between. Coming between the arts and science. And, that's what the Greeks were all about. They were all into that stuff.
For sure.
I don't want to keep going on about the Greeks. But
But, I mean, when you think about it, out of that time came theatre, came, philosophy, civilization.
Pythagoras' theorem.
All those big
geometry and algebra.
Yeah.
But,
we have the Greeks. There was a little bit, the Greeks to thank.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
All that craziness.
So what's next?
We're going into term 3, which is a really busy time of the year. And so like a lot of our junior subjects roll over and they do another option. So I've just finished with one cohort of Year 7 and Year 8s, and I get a new lot next Monday, little keen beans, which is always really, I love teaching them this. They're so much fun because they come in with no inhibitions and they just want to, they just lap it up. They absolutely love it. So, it's hardcore, but I absolutely love teaching those year levels. And partway through my term with my Year 9s, who are currently working on duologues from West Side Story.
Oh, wow. What were they? Sorry, duologues?
A duologue. So it's a scripted piece between two characters. Right. So, one person monologue, two person duologue.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes
total sense. Singing?
No singing. No, I wouldn't be that cruel. Yeah. But it's funny, you unpack it with them and then you show them the original film version and then suddenly they're busting out clicking and dance fighting, things like that, which is kind of cool.
Do you do musicals as well in drama?
It's the one musical we do study in Year 9, but I mean all the big productions, the outside like cross school productions we do in musicals.
Right.
So the last big one we did was Rock of Ages.
Right.
Yeah.
Because music's a whole different subject, eh?
It is, but I mean, my background, it was a musical theatre.
Oh, right.
So yeah,
Okay.
I was in part, I grew up in Alexandra and was part of Alexandra Musical Society. And
No, I was just thinking that I suddenly thought, but it's drama. But then if you're singing, it's music, and then there's like a musical, and it's like halfway between, and so I guess
and we study musicals. Like I'm a huge fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, so we studied that a few years ago, and I've actually just taken on the last day of the term, last term. Took 42 students to the Court Theatre in Christchurch and back in one day to see Something Rotten.
Wow.
Which is...
that's a cool school excursion, isn't it?
Yeah,
wow. I bet they loved you for that.
Yeah, they had a really good time, and it's really important that even though it's a little bit of pain getting, leaving at 5:15 in the morning and getting back at, 8 o'clock at night, it's so worth it. Because, those education outside the classroom experiences are so valuable for the kids to get to know us a little bit better. We get to know them. They go to another, professional theatre in another city, sit in the audience, with lots of other school kids from other schools, experience 2 hours of just non-stop crazy, amazing musical. Something Rotten is obviously a play where the antagonist is like Shakespeare,
right?
And he's like a real kid. He's like a real rock star, real ladies' man. He's kind of like the Tom Jones kind of character. And there's two playwrights, the Bottom brothers, who want to write the next big hit, and so they want to one up on Shakespeare, and that's kind of the whole thing. So it's really about what is success and how to be successful and how to keep it and things like that. So it is a multi-layered, even though it's a musical, it's multi-layered, and we can really deep dive next week once we get back into class and really break down the text and break down the characters and their journeys and stuff. So, we do cool things like that.
Cool. And is Shakespeare still in the curriculum?
Yes, well,
is there a place for it?
And obviously there's been a lot of talk lately around making it compulsory. And I think there's good and bad things with that, because you don't want to turn people off. As soon as something is compulsory, people go,
exactly.
No, that's true.
Yeah. And the thing is, people should want to do it because they love it. And I mean, it still has its place, like anything. New Zealand texts are really important to study as well. You should still be able to study the canon. We did Shakespeare Fest this year, and it's so valuable for those students to be in another environment surrounded by other arts kids sharing their collective love for Shakespeare. It's just a really cool thing.
It's, at least in the English-speaking world, it's a collective thing that it's like a touchstone that all drama students will have some running knowledge of Shakespeare, because it just is a touchstone across.
Oh, it is,
and wider than just English speaking.
And sometimes it's life changing too, because I still remember as a 14-year-old going to the Dunstan High School library and checking out Hamlet and reading it for the first time.
It's not the languages and the language that's spoken. It's a commentary on the human condition. So,
it is.
Yeah.
So we did King Lear and Macbeth, and I still catch myself thinking, that's such a King Lear moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the plays that he wrote, are just, they can fit in any time and place.
Yeah, it's funny.
They
you can see that because of how many modern films and whatever, and how many times has Romeo and Juliet been rewritten?
I know. And I still love the Baz Luhrmann version.
Yes, that's
my favourite,
amazing.
Favourite version.
One thing I did want to ask you is, and you may or may not know that, is there a good, non-drama type person, modern adaptation of King Lear?
Oh, good question. I've only ever seen it on stage or in terms of a film version.
In terms of a film version or something? Because there's a lot of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
It's adaptations that are in film, but I just wonder why there's not a King Lear. It's totally not anything really inconsequential to the interview, but I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, there must be one, but not off the top of my head.
It just seems like it's such a good play.
Yeah, it is a good play. I studied it as well. It's a tough play.
Yeah. It is dark. I mean,
it's probably not my
everybody
favourite one.
dies.
Yeah, but it is a great play.
And I think it resonates with me because, in essence, it's a story about a father and 3 daughters. Yeah. And I'm the middle daughter of 3 daughters.
Yeah.
But obviously, I identify with Cordelia.
Yeah. I just don't identify with the eye gouging.
You've got to have a bit of that gruesomeness for the audience, right?
Yeah,
throw it to the folk in the
but it is very
seats.
much a story about parenthood. Yeah.
And what you can expect from it, and that change with kids growing up and the change in that relationship between parent when kids have their own lives and move on and all that sort of
and I'm
stuff.
experiencing that at the moment. I have one daughter in year 13 and the other's in year 11 and
almost off to uni.
I know. Well, she's just been pre-approved and I know it's a bit scary, like she's only 17 and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my babies are leaving because I loved being at home with them. I love being a stay-at-home mum. I was really, really happy being at home with them. I love teaching as well, don't get me wrong, I love my job. Yeah, but there was something really special about, those first 3.5 years with my eldest being at home and just really spending good quality time. Yeah, with them. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds fantastic.
Sounds like it. I was going to say huggy moment.
Huga moment. H-Y-G-G-E.
Yeah. There's a lot of creation of Huga moments. Yeah, especially because while they were little, I took obviously maternity leave and a break from teaching and we went over and lived in Canada for 13 months on a teaching exchange because my other half is a teacher.
Right.
So I was at home with, snow up to here, making cosy little moments at home with my daughters while my other half was off teaching in the Canadian school system, which is pretty cool.
So just rounding out the conversation, if you could make one big change to the New Zealand curriculum, what would you do?
Drama would be compulsory.
What did you say before? If you make it compulsory, nobody
wants to do it. It's a catch-22. Yeah. Well, I'm really lucky that at my own school it is compulsory for year 7 and year 8.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and because they see the importance of kids, trying every subject.
And actually, that's what not with drama because we didn't have drama, but that's what we did in what would have been year 7 and 8. We had I think we had 3 terms back then, and we had economics one term and then the next term we'd have whatever the other thing would work or technical drawing or something, and we did that for I think 6 subjects and and that was really good because there's a whole lot of subjects that sorry my voice has gone absolutely crazy, there's a whole lot of subjects they really just don't really know what they are when you're that age until you've actually tried them and they must have a whole lot of people who just never would give drama a thought but then once they try it
Yeah, and you have those kids come in who they think, oh, what are we in for? I've never done this before. Like, it's so scary and, I have to perform in front of people. And it's about, our job is really breaking that down, that anxiety around performance. And once they get it and that spark, when they perform and they get the applause, there's nothing like it. It's such a special, I just think we're in such a unique position. I feel just so... just proud to be a drama teacher and just to be, witnessing moments like that. Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is with having it, like everybody doing it at that young age, at year 7 and 8, there's no stigma to doing it because there's no one chose it. Everybody has to do it.
Yeah.
And everybody's done it, so everybody sees that it's actually, it's not just prancing around in tights. It's actually, some of it might be prancing around in tights, but
there's a bit of dressing up.
It's a proper subject. Like there's a value to the subject beyond the stereotype that you might see from film or TV or whatever. And I think the fact that it is compulsory at that level, same as maths is compulsory, English. And I guess that's kind of a little bit the point of those intermediate years in some ways. Yeah. Is that you do get to, that's when you're kind of feeling out what you like, what you want to, which way you want to go.
It's a really good introduction to what you might think about. Yeah. I can't remember whether Louis had it at school, but we went to a production at the Mayfair Theatre, dragged the 7 and 8 year 8s, and the kid sitting next to me was a motorbike cross-country rider. he loved it. His parents said, been talking about it all the time. So I think that's really quite the value in our school system is that we expose people to a whole lot. Whereas in the UK, some artist, he'd never been to an art gallery and didn't know he could go there because he wasn't the right class kind of thing. So I think, we're really fortunate here. And then it comes back to funding. We've got to make sure we maintain that and we maintain our people.
And make sure that it's possible to play rugby and be in drama.
Yes, you can.
Like, you don't have to be an either or.
Be one or the other.
Yeah.
And I think that's the scary thing. There's a real juxtaposition of sport versus the arts, and it's like it doesn't have to be that way. You can do both. Yeah. I mean, I'm a drama teacher, but I love watching motor racing. I love watching Formula One.
Oh my goodness!
My dad used to be motor racing editor for the
now,
press.
right before the end of the show, we just really get to the grips of who you are as a person.
Yeah, you can do both. I mean, my mum and dad are really into sport. My dad is a crazy mountain biker. So you can do both. But a lot of our job is advocating, for the importance of our subject. And I just think it's such an important one for young people to discover who they are.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it sounds like a very, very good message.
And a very good place to end, I think. So thank you very much. And this is the drama episode.
Thank you very much for coming along and talking to us.
My fantastic. Thank you.
Kia ora.
Wonderful. You've been listening to the OI podcast, the shout out for the arts, sciences and Mataranga Māori.
You can support this podcast by becoming a member of the OI. Check out the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences on Facebook or our website.
If you'd like to listen again to this episode or others from the series, look for the OI podcast on OAR FM's website, oar.org.nz.
Brought to you by the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences, the Otago branch of the Royal Society of New Zealand.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.